السلام على رسول الله وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقهوا قولي. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Inshallah, in today's talk on the seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, we will first talk about the previous week's brief summary, and then we'll talk about some of the important incidents which are motivational for us, especially. So I picked some of them which are mentioned in the book, and we'll go from there. Which was basically the stance of different Sahaba about different actions that were done right after the Badr was over, and the responses of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam about those incidents. Now, last week we talked about the Battle of Badr and how the two armies met. How Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala helped the angels, helped the Muslims by descending the angels. And there were different incidents we talked about, how the angels helped the Muslimin. And also we talked about the ending of Abu Jahl, how he was killed in this battle. And there was an interesting story of Umar bin Hammam al-Ansari, the one who was, when he asked Rasulullah that if he fights in the battle and if he dies as a shaheed, where is he going to be? And he was told he will be Jannah. And actually, it was more of a, and when the ayat from Surah Al-Imran was recited, the Jannah, the one that was talking about the Jannah, that Arduwa Samawat wal Ard, that it's so big, huge, the Jannah. And he asked Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, amazingly, it's that big. And when he said, Bakhin, that, oh my God, it's that big. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam said yes, and he said, Rasulullah asked him about his inquiry about that, and he said he wished that he would be resident of that Jannah. And Rasulullah said he's one of them. And when he found about that, then he took out some dates he was eating, and then he threw away the dates. And he was asked, why did you throw away the dates? And he said that life would be too long to waste in eating the dates while he can enter into Jannah. So that's a very important aspect of prioritizing the things in our life. That our highest priority should be always around Islam, around Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, pleasing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's actually I was reading one of the in Surah Al-Qaf is discussing about the people who are awwab. Awwab are the people who return back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And one of the Mufassirin discusses that because those awwab are the one who will be the residents of the Jannah as well. And the Mufassir says that it is like it has a deep meaning when we say somebody is awwab. But it could be looked at as a compass. You know, not many people use compass anymore. Everybody has GPS. But if you look at the compass is always pointing towards the north, right? You can keep shaking the compass, but the needle will always be pointing towards the north. So the Mufassir is saying, awwab is like that. No matter what situation he's in, he's always going back to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He's returning back to Allah. He wants to know Allah, pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, so he can do all those actions that pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And he stays away from all those actions which are the prohibition from Allah. So that's an important lesson to get out of Umar bin Hammam al-Ansari's example as well. And then we talked about how Abu Jahl was ended by two young men. The only reason for them was they knew that Abu Jahl was one of the people who hurt Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, harmed Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam in Makkah. And that was one thing that they wanted to do. They were just there in the battle of Badr to go after Abu Jahl. And both of them stuck together. A very young man, and one of them, as a matter of fact, later on martyred as well. Okay. So today, inshallah, we'll talk about some of the things that specific things that happened in Battle of Badr. One of the things was Rasulullah told the Sahaba that do not harm or do not kill the people from Banu Hashim. Rasulullah was from Banu Hashim, and the people, including Abbas, the uncle of Rasulullah, was part of Badr. And the reason was they did not come really out of their own will. They were more forced into coming to the Battle of Badr. And Rasulullah, not only about him, he also said about Abu Bakr ibn Hisham. Also, if you see him, if you mention Abbas bin Abdul Muttalib, take him as prisoner, but do not kill him. And if you remember, Abu al-Bakhtari was one of those 5 people who helped or plot to end the boycott that was against Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Sahaba in Shaykh Asim in the valley that they were boycotted for about 3 years. So he was one of those 5 from the Mushrikeen who helped Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Sahaba to be out of that boycott. Just a reminder, these 5 people, they went to the Nadwa, kind of a parliament of that time among the Meccans, and they spread out, and one by one they started saying in the favor of this boycott should be finished. And Abu Jahl realized that it's a plot, but they set it up in a way that they were standing up from different parts of that gathering. It felt like as if the people were in the favor, and people were in their heart, they did not want this, what was happening to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Anyways, and then but what happened was Abu Bakhtari unfortunately was also killed because of he wanted to save somebody, and even though the orders were not to, he wanted to combat, as a matter of fact. And Rasulullah he ended up being killed in the Badr. But Abu Hudayfa bin Utbah, he was surprised about the comment of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he said that, okay, so we will be killing our own brothers, fathers, and uncles, but we will let Bani Hashim go. Now, of course, this is Rasulullah's command. So now Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam turned towards Umar bin Khattab, and he said to Ya Hafs. So Umar's kunya was Ya Hafs, which was his daughter's name. Ya Abu Hafs, sorry, Ya Abu Hafs. So when he said that, and he said, how do you feel that, is it fair that the face of the messenger's uncle be struck with a sword? Now Umar, as usual, about the way his personality was, the stature was, right away he said, okay, Ya Rasulullah, do you want me to chop off his neck? And the Abu Hudayfa, he was in the real state of terror when he heard Umar saying this. And he really felt the mistake he made. The mistake was not just a statement, his mistake was to go against Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam statement. Yeah? He's a messenger of Allah, sent by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one who speaks from the wahy, from what Allah commanded. Now, so he said he was in such a state of fear, and he understood the mistake. He said he will only wait for him to be forgiven for that sin that he has done, mistake he has done, if he's a martyr. And he was actually later on in Battle of Yamama, he was a martyr. Umayyah bin Khalaf, one of the people who was like Abu Jahl, another category of Abu Jahl kind of people. Leaders who harmed Rasulullah and Sahaba. Specifically, we hear all the time the story of Bilal al-Habashi radiallahu anhu. He was the master of Bilal until Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu freed him. And he was also the same person who harmed Rasulullah in many occasions. Now, he became a prisoner of war, him and his son. He was in good terms with Abdurrahman bin Auf radiallahu anhu. Now, Abdurrahman bin Auf radiallahu anhu, when he saw him with his son, so he wanted to protect him. And the moment Bilal radiallahu anhu saw him, he started screaming, and he was the mother of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as well, if you know. And he really wanted to go after Umayyah bin Khalaf, and not only that, he instigated among the Muslimin also, and Muslimin also, they gathered to attack Umayyah bin Khalaf and his son. And his son was killed first, and Abdurrahman bin Auf was trying to protect him. And he even told Umayyah, forget about your son, now go run. And at the end, Umayyah was also was killed. Now, when Umayyah was killed, his son was killed, and during this time, Abdurrahman bin Auf, he was trying to defend him, even he himself was injured. During this time, when the Sahaba were attacking Umayyah and his son, it was unintentionally, he was also hurt by one of the swords. Now, a few responses of the Sahaba is very important to pay attention to. Things like Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anhu. For the pleasure of Allah Azza wa Jal, when they were fighting in the Badr, he was one of those people who ended up killing his Khal, which is his uncle. Uncle means the Khal is the maternal uncle, the brother of the mother. So he ended up killing Al-As bin Hisham bin Mughira. Similarly, Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu's son Abdurrahman was also on the side of Mushrikeen. So when we talk about Badr, this has been 15 years that Abu Bakr has already been Muslim and his son has not become Muslim yet. And this is a very painful thing, by the way, to carry this kind of a burden, that your son has not become Muslim. Abu Bakr was another similar kind of stories about him. His father, Abu Quhafa, he did not become Muslim until the conquest of Mecca. So we're talking about 8 plus 13 years, which is 21 years since Rasulullah was appointed as a prophet. His father did not accept Islam. So for 21 years, he did not become Muslim. Abdurrahman, his son, he accepted Islam after Hudaybiyah. Hudaybiyah was the 6th year after the Hijrah. So that's 19 years. So Abu Bakr lived like this, his father and his son. One of the closest relatives you can have, they were not Muslim. Even though his daughters, like other son Abdullah, they were Muslim, but still, this is a very difficult time to go through, to see your own close family people are not Muslim. So when he saw Abdurrahman, and he said, Aina Maliya Khabith. Khabith, I don't know if it translates as wicked. Khabith is, I don't know how to translate. If anybody can translate better than wicked, that's fine. But he called him a Khabith. So to his own son, he's talking to, where's my wealth? Talking to his son. And his son, he basically wasted all the wealth that he had. Because Abu Bakr, remember, he left everything, whatever he had also behind him. All the Sahaba, most of the Sahaba, they ended up leaving everything in Mecca when they migrated, for the sake of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And another incident talks about this. After Abdurrahman became Muslim, he was talking to his father, Abu Bakr, and he said, on the day of Badr, I was trying to avoid you, so I don't have to face you, and I don't have to fight with you. And Abu Bakr said, if I would have seen you, or you were against me, I would have killed you. That's what Abu Bakr said about his own son. But alhamdulillah, later on, he became a Muslim. Similarly, we see Mus'ab ibn Umair, radiallahu anhu, a famous Sahabi of Rasulullah, the one who played a great role in, as a matter of fact, doing the da'wah in Medina, in Yathrib. Because of that, the people of Yathrib came to Rasulullah because of his work, that they ended up giving the second bay'ah, in which 75 people, 73 men and 2 women came and gave a bay'ah to Rasulullah, so Rasulullah can migrate to Medina and establish the deen of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But now, what happened was that his own brother, Abu Aziz, he was one of the prisoners of war. And a Sahabi was tying him. And Mus'ab was passing by and he says to him, tie him good, his mother is wealthy. Now, Abu Aziz, he is surprised. He said, well, brother, what are you doing? You're my brother. And his response was that the one Sahabi who's tying him, he said, he is more of a brother to me than you. Because he turned away from, he did not accept Islam at that time. So that's an important thing, how the Sahaba were, how they used to look at these relationships. And this is why Kuffar actually, of the Makkah, they use actually these kinds of incidents, even in Makkah also, when they were trying to accuse Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam for different things. Okay? So they were trying to say he's a poet, sha'ar, he's a kahin, a soothsayer, he's a magician, sahir, and on and on. And they know that none of these labels can really stick to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because you have to make, you're going to lie about somebody, there has to be something that can stick, otherwise you become a liar very openly among the people. So hence, this is one of the things they used to use to show, look, he has come up with a message that creates separation between the son and the father, or the mother and the son. But of course, that separation is on the right basis. And Islam does not say that even if your parents are not Muslim, you still are supposed to be respectful to them. You're still supposed to be taking care of them. All those things are still you have to abide by. But they were trying to show this because of, remember that their tribal way of living. For them, this is a huge thing. For them, they used to think of this way, that you support your brother even if it's a zalim or Makhtum. He's oppressor, tyrant, or the one who is being oppressed. And of course, there's a hadith on a similar note that says a similar word, but the meanings are different. In the time of the kuffar, the jahiliyyah, they used to look at this saying, expression as, no matter what your brother does, he's an oppressor or he's oppressed, you have to go help. Help means you help him in oppression also. But when Islam came, Islam flipped the meaning of it in a different way. It said, you're oppressed, everybody knows you're supposed to help the oppressed. But if it's an oppressor, you hold his hand. That's helping your brother. Okay? As Sahaba asked Rasulullah about, how do you help an oppressor? And Rasulullah said, hold his hand. Because you're helping him, otherwise he's getting closer and closer to enter Jahannam. And you're helping him not to be a fuel of the hellfire. Okay, so that was the story of Mus'ab ibn Umair radiallahu anhu. That goes along with what Allah Azza wa Jal has mentioned about our relationships should be. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah يا أيها الذين آمنوا لا تتخذوا آباءكم وإخوانكم أولياء إن استحبوا الكفر على الإيمان ومن يتولهم منكم فأولئك هم الظالمون. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is saying, O you who believe, do not take your fathers, your brothers as your awliya, as your protectors, as your allies, if they prefer kufr over iman. So imagine that. You're talking about even your own blood brothers and your fathers, uncle, whoever they are. So obviously that applies to people who are not blood relatives as well. So you don't take them as your allies. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, that believers are nothing but brothers to each other. They are brothers to each other. Okay. Now, another incident about that, I forgot to mention this one. So the same Sahabi Abu Hudayfa bin Uqba, he, when the bodies of the kuffar were gathered to be put into the well of the Badr, when they were burying them, so he saw his own father who fought on the side of the mushrikeen. And he was sad. Of course, look, being sad is a different kind of emotion. You can be sad for any harm that happens to anybody. It could be your father, it could be your mother, anybody. If something happens to them, you are supposed you get sad. Even the Muslim or non-Muslim. This is a normal behavior. Now, his sadness was because he understood that because of his father's denial of Islam, he is going towards the destination, which is the hellfire. Because he's represented Islam and he knows what the haqq is. His son has become Muslim, but he is rejected. So hence he was aware of that. He had no doubt about this, but he wished that his father would accept Islam. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he saw sadness on him. He made dua for Abu Hudayfa radiallahu anhu. But it did not deter him away from anything, being a Muslim. Now Sa'ad bin Mu'adh radiallahu anhu, when he saw the prisoners were gathered, meaning there were about 70 or so prisoners of war were arrested in the Battle of Badr. And when they were making the prisoners, Sa'ad bin Mu'adh, he was one of those people, from his face you can tell he's not happy of taking them as prisoners of war. And Rasulullah asked him, it seems like you're not happy about this. And his stance was, we should not be taking prisoners of war. We should be harming the enemy as much as possible. And he was in the favor of, as the book talks about, the reports is talking about that, all those prisoners should have been killed. And Rasulullah did not accept his suggestion, as we will talk about next week, inshallah. And Umar al-Khattab was of the same suggestion, but Rasulullah went with Abu Bakr's suggestion, and later on, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala revealed the ayat against the decision of what Rasulullah made. Of course, that was allowed at that time, but we'll talk next week, inshallah, about that. Another miraculous thing happened in this battle was Uqasha bin Muhsin al-Asadi. His sword broke down. So Rasulullah took a piece of log and he, by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that log turned into a sword. And Uqasha continued to fight. Now, see, you see these kind of miraculous things are mentioned in the Seerah of Rasulullah, many of them. It's not only this one. We hear about the split of the moon, you'll see that we hear about they were on expedition and the Sahaba did not have enough water. Very small amount of water was there. Rasulullah said, gather the water, put them in a pot. And Rasulullah put his hand and as if the water started gushing out of his hands, and there were about 80, according to other reports, 80 people. They were able to make wudu from that water, and they were able to use it. Now, similarly, in the Tabuk, we see a Sahabi, in Tabuk, they did not have enough to eat. A Sahabi came to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and he opened up his the cloak that he had on himself, and he showed that he had one stone tied to his tongue. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam lifted his own, and he showed him he had two of them, not one. So, and that's a good thing to look into, the leadership the way it should be. And we see this is an example, not like Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, but even Khulafā Rashidin example as well, that they always made sure that their subject, the ummah, had been taken care of before even they'd been taken care of. Okay, so hence Rasulullah showed that. Now, one Sahabi came to Rasulullah, and first he went to his wife and he said, "Okay, what do you have?" She said, "Oh, we have only one small goat." And they said, "Okay, let's the Tabuk, not Tabuk, sorry, why am I saying Tabuk? It's Ahzab, Ghazwat Ahzab. This whole incident is about the Battle of Khandaq. For some reason in my head I mixed these two up. Okay, so now here in the Ahzab, that Sahabi went to his wife and they said, "Okay, let's slaughter this goat and we'll make something for Rasulullah, and there was some dough and make some bread." And he said, "Okay." She said, "How many people you can feed?" So she said, "Probably 4, 5, 6 people." It was a small amount. So he went very in a silent way, whispering to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, "Can you come over to eat with us?" And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam asked 300 people to come with him. And subhanallah, those 300 people come, and the wife was like kind of confused, what's going on here? How are we going to feed? And Sahabi's opinion, the response was, if Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam brought him, then we don't have to worry about it. And subhanallah, that not a small amount of food that was sufficient for all, and they still had food after that. So this is these are the miracles that we see in the seerah of Rasulullah. Many of the miracles happen, and these are not the miracles that we talk about, because these miracles are gone now. We cannot show these miracles. The real miracle, the biggest miracle that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam came with was the miracle of the Quran, and it is a living miracle. It will continue to be a living miracle, because there is no more prophet after Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So the miracle continues to live. So we can prove that this is the word of Allah Azza wa Jal, and it becomes a rational way a person can enter into fold of Islam by accepting the fact that this is a miracle only can come from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was the one who brought it, which is generations through generations, this information has passed on to us, that it is Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam who is the one who conveyed the Quran to the Sahaba, and then after that to the next generations. And it was written in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam as well. Okay. Now, having said that, the reason I was bringing this up about this small, simple example of similar kind of miracles that you see, just to have a taste of it, that there are many other miracles were shown by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Again, we say that all the time. Miracles are by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not about a prophet, he can do himself. It's by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as well. Because all these things are against the nature. These are the basic attributes of a wood does not turn into a sword. But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, was able to do, and that can only be done by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is why they are called, this is called mu'ajizah, this is called miracle. A miraculous thing can only be done by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The characteristics of the things change completely. Like we see when we talk about Ibrahim alayhi salatu wasalam, and he walks through the fire. Fire burns, but that becomes calm and cool for him. Or a staff or asa of Musa turns into a snake. So that does not turn into a snake in any ways. But it did because of by the will of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And so on and so forth, we find many things like that. Okay. So outcome of the Battle of Badr. In the Battle of Badr, of course, there was a humiliating defeat for the mushrikeen of the Mecca, and it was a great victory for the Muslims. Even though Muslims were very small in number, Muslims were still were the victorious by the help of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Always remember that victory comes from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's not only our efforts. Yes, we are accountable for our efforts, no matter what kind of victory we talk about. At the end of the day, the results are in the hands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. We have to make ourselves deserving of the result that we're looking for. And yes, we try our best. We see in the life of Rasulullah, he tried all his material means as well when he was talking about fighting in the battle of Badr. It's not like he's saying, I'm just relying on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. No, he showed us how to do the things. So we always use all those things or the means which are available. At the same time, we continue to rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. In that one, 14 Muslims were martyred, and 6 were from the Muhajirin and 8 were from the Ansar. And when it comes to the Mushrikeen, 70 were killed, and the same number were pretty much taken as the prisoners. And many big leaders of the Kuffar were killed. That included the chief Abu Jahl. We talked about Umayyah bin Khalaf also. As we saw that, we can see in one of the hadith mentioned in Sahih Muslim, that when they were taking, after 3 days of the battle, when those bodies of the Mushrikeen were there, they were burying the bodies of the Mushrikeen. And Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, he was as if he was talking to them. The way he was talking, that he was saying that Ya Abu Jahl bin Hisham, Ya Umayyah bin Khalaf, Ya Utbah bin Rabi'a, Ya Shayba bin Rabi'a, and on and on. Rasulullah, different hadith, other hadith talks about, he mentioned about 40 names. And he was saying, he said to them like this, that have you not found what your Lord has promised with you to be correct? So the brother asked last week, as if Rasulullah said something about the kuffar. And he was talking to them, the bodies, and he said, have you not found? And he said, I have found the promises of my Rabb to be perfectly correct. And Umar, when he was listening to that, and he asked Rasulullah, these are dead people. Are you expecting response from them? Why are you talking to them? Rasulullah responds to him by he's saying, وَالَّذِي نَفْسِ بِيَدِي مَا أَنْتُمْ بِأَسْمَعَ لِمَا أَقُولُ مِنْهُمْ وَلَكِنَّهُمْ لَا يَقْدِرُونَ أَنْ يُجِيبُ. That they, he's saying, he's swearing by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, in whose hand his life is, the soul is. He said that what I am saying to them, even you cannot hear more distinctly than they, but they lack the power of reply. And then Rasulullah commanded them that they should be thrown into the well of the Badr, and they were there. So, and there are other reports also that Rasulullah was conversing with them. I'm not going to go into that detail as we try to finish on time. Okay, other thing was when the news of the victory came, Rasulullah sent actually 2 Sahaba, Abdullah bin Rawaha and Zayd bin al-Harith radiyallahu anhuma. These are both of them actually were martyred in the same battle of Mu'tah. And Rasulullah sent them, and Zayd was sitting on the camel of Rasulullah, she camel of Rasulullah. So when they arrived, we know that in Medina, it was not like everybody was Muslim. They were Muslim, they were Munafiqeen, they were Mushrikeen there as well. And they were Yahud. Especially the Yahud and the Munafiqeen. They really carried on the hatred against Rasulullah and Islam. So they started spreading the rumors, especially when they saw from far that Zayd is coming on the camel of Rasulullah. They started rumors that Rasulullah had been killed and the Sahaba have faced defeat. But when they came, they clarified what happened, and the Muslims were happy about, they were joyous about the victory of the Muslimin. Now, during this time, if you pay attention to it, in this whole Badr event, I've been talking about Abu Bakr, I've been talking about Umar, Abdurrahman bin Auf, Ali, and many major Sahaba. There's one Sahabi who's one of the great Sahaba of Rasulullah is not mentioned in the Badr. And that Sahabi is Uthman bin Affan, radiallahu anhu. Because Uthman bin Affan, radiallahu anhu, was commanded by Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam to stay behind. Because Ruqayya, radiallahu anha, the daughter of Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, was very sick. And he told him to stay behind, okay, and to take care of her. And while they were in Battle of Badr, Ruqayya radiallahu anha, she passed away. And not only passed away, she was actually buried before Rasulullah arrived back to Medina. Okay. Now, it's an aspect that we should. There are 2 things I want to just point out about this last incident, or the last thing I talked about. One is it has been used against Uthman bin Affan a lot, that Uthman did not participate in Badr, while he was excused by Rasulullah. Simple thing is that from the reports that we know of. One. Second thing about Uthman is Rasulullah, when he was distributing the shares of the spoils of war of Badr, he made Uthman as one of the participants of Badr. Because he was accepted as a participant because he was taking care of Ruqayya on the command of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That shows that it's not that he did not want to go and fight. He was scared. It's more for the command that Rasulullah gave, he was obeying. That's one part. Second thing, interesting, and a lot of people don't realize that. Look, a daughter of a Nabi died. They did not wait for Rasulullah to come back from the battle to bury her. They buried her as soon as they, and we know that in Islam, this is a very important, this is the ikram of a deceased person, that you bury them as soon as possible. We hear that all the time. We do that. Any of you have been to janazas or burial places, right? So a person may die at the Fajr time, you will see by the whole time they are doing Salatul Janazah. Sometimes even before that. Back home, they don't even wait for the Salah time sometimes. They will call up the people and they will do the Janazah. Even after Isha, they will do that. So they try to do it as soon as possible. But in this case, we see that they did, right? Rasulullah did not even join the Salatul Janazah. Uthman is the one who led the Salatul Janazah. And then Rasulullah went to the graveyard and he prayed there for Ruqayyah radiallahu anha. The reason I'm bringing this up is, on contrary to the very same thing, we see when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam died. He died on Monday. He was buried on Wednesday night. Why there is a huge gap here? And that's not a topic I understand, and when we inshallah at the end will talk about it, I will stress on that point. It's a very important point. And fuqaha, you will read about many scholars have discussed this subject from the past and until today. The only reason the Sahaba did not bury the best of the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam, because they understood there is another obligation bigger than even burying Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And that was to appoint Abu Bakr as the Khalifa. It is such an important aspect of Islam. Unfortunately, we have lost it. We have forgotten about this. We don't even realize that such a big aspect of Islam is missing. That's why I want to just bring this up, even though it's not directly connected to Ruqayyah, you will see that many times. But to just stress on that point, inshallah. So that's all I had for today. Inshallah, we'll continue on next week. If there's any questions or comments about the subject covered, inshallah, I will try to answer.